Everybody has those times when they blame themselves for their mistakes. We can essentially be our own worst enemies, but for the INFJ, the rarest of the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types, perhaps you have been there. You criticize yourself. You demand things of yourself that you would never demand of anybody else. You second-guess, berate, and overthink your wants and preferences. No matter how well it does, you still don't think it's adequate. You may trust me, I am an INFJ myself. The self-talk we INFJs engage in, well, sometimes it can be downright abusive. However, things don't have to be this way. Here are 4 ways INFJs might sabotage their own efforts, as well as what stopped me from doing so. INFJs' tendency to become their own worst enemies. 1. Extremely high standards. Ironically, the pressure that INFJs experience is largely self-imposed pressure. INFJs are perfectionists who are also ambitious and frequently high achievers. Our lofty expectations are a surefire prescription for self-destructive behavior. The INFJ's life motto may very well be, I should have done better. I'm not sure about you, but as an INFJ, I frequently criticize myself for what I perceive to be failures in comparison to others' successes. We INFJs rarely feel happy with our accomplishments, which is one of the reasons we may not respond well to compliments. We don't believe other people's praise because our inner critic constantly beats us up for all the things we didn't accomplish. To be totally honest, there have been occasions when I have sat in bed, sobbing uncontrollably, with a burning pain in my chest, and have berated myself for not doing this or that. As I consider what I've accomplished, my INFJ nature says, there's always something more. I've become upset when people have mentioned my successes because, in certain cases, I've felt like my success is meaningless in the grand scheme of things. It's irrelevant. I was itching to yell. It is meaningless. I could have performed better. Do you not notice that? It took me a long time to understand that acceptance is the first step toward contentment. I eventually developed an appreciation for the process and for my failures, and I eventually learned to keep going. Even if your work seems minor or imperfect, taking a moment to acknowledge it will help. Sometimes you have to speak it out loud to believe it. You need to shout back when your inner critic is putting you down if you're an INFJ. It's essential. Remind yourself that even minor triumphs add up and that you are moving closer to your larger goals. The best part is that as you celebrate minor victories, your confidence and enthusiasm grow, enabling you to set more ambitious and audacious goals. 2. Dividers that obstruct access. I've always been frightened of coming off as helpless. I'm scared to death of getting injured. This makes sense in a strange way because I've experienced hurt before. It's also important to keep in mind that INFJs are extremely sensitive and emotional, so when we hurt, we truly hurt. And whether the act occurred yesterday or 5 years ago, we still have those wounds. Everything is significant. The impact is severe. We INFJs may therefore automatically take precautions to protect ourselves, which may be both a blessing and a problem. It's a blessing when we set healthy boundaries, decide to leave unhealthy situations, and take steps to protect our energy. But it's a curse when we build barriers that are meant to keep people out. You know, we construct walls around ourselves when we become so fearful of suffering harm. In an effort to fit in, we could present to others only that which we believe they want to see. In essence, we get defensive when we sense that we might be rejected. Because we don't want to take a chance, we therefore miss out on connections, relationships, and new experiences. For instance, I've avoided social gatherings so many times since I was aware that there was a possibility I may find myself standing awkwardly by myself, fidgeting with my hands while having nothing to do, and feeling entirely alone in a swarm of chattering people my age. At the risk of sounding overly theatrical, it's embarrassing, but eventually my heart just can't take it. Balance, in my opinion, is the key. We INFJs must understand when to take those walls down. We must choose our risks wisely. Since we are introverts, attending every social gathering to which we are invited is probably not the best course of action. What about a few, though? What about those who pose the least risk? The one where our friends or relatives will be present, ensuring that at least someone will know us. Or the one where we're allowed to watch a performance or listen to a lecture while sitting at a table rather than being compelled to mingle. Pick your battles, INFJs. Remember to live. For our own benefit, we must occasionally tear down those barriers. 3. A need for power. An INFJ who is in charge is a content INFJ. We INFJs prefer to know what will happen in advance because change and spontaneity can make us anxious. We frequently adhere to schedules, use planners, and become fixated on to-do lists. Before attending any social function, we want to be aware of the precise time, place, and number of attendees. Occasionally, I even look up the venue on Google Maps to see what the building looks like. As a result, when an INFJ lacks control over a situation, we become anxious. We might lose direction. We struggle. We panic because we are unprepared, and being unprepared prevents us from functioning. Sadly, as you are aware, life is unpredictable. Unknowns will always exist. Despite our best efforts, we can't plan for everything. The challenge is surviving in the middle of that uncertainty. We INFJs must learn to let go in order to deal, and certainly it is easier said than done. We can eventually learn to relax and breathe. However, it takes time and practice. By confronting the unknowns that are thrown at us, we learn to accept what is beyond our control. I sometimes have to tell myself, let go of this circumstance. You can't predict the future, and you have no influence over it. However, you can handle anything since you are capable and powerful. I'm telling you, you'll make it. INFJs lack nothing in tenacity. 4. Excessive analysis. There is no such thing as turning it off for an INFJ. We constantly reflect and daydream. Most people wish their brains would stop talking for a moment. You can be certain that an INFJ will be reading it in any circumstance. We're responding appropriately to the people and feelings around us, but also sensing the unsaid tension that most other people are not aware of. But much overthinking might have disastrous consequences. Every time we are in a public setting, we begin judging ourselves against other individuals. It mainly centers on how I look. Should I have worn this jacket? Am I erect as I stand? Is my face perspiring? She is stylish. I should have chosen a different dress, etc. When I get home, I'll say, I should have said that. Have I grinned enough? Why did I not approach her and talk to her? At that particular time, I shouldn't have laughed. Couldn't I have come up with better inquiries? Never-ending cycle, not for an INFJ, at least. We can't stop analyzing, and it can be quite stressful. The answer. I have a quick tip that works for me. When you notice that your mind is drifting toward unfavorable ideas, force yourself to take a calm breath before forcing yourself to name 3 aspects of the situation. One that you can smell, one that you can hear, and one that you can touch. Go ahead and zoom in. In any situation, you may calm yourself and pull yourself back from the brink of a meltdown by concentrating on specific, tangible information. You are compelled to give another subject serious thought. It diverts your attention from unfavorable ideas. We must respect our greatest ally, ourselves, if we are to genuinely thrive and realize our INFJ potential. Working with rather than against yourself is essential. We must learn to love ourselves, push away unfavorable ideas, and substitute with optimistic ones. Frequently, our brains are too eager to hurl emotional abuse, criticism, and insults. Would we tell our best buddy the things we tell ourselves? No, that's my main point. INFJ, you merit better, I beg you. Now quit fighting the encouragement I'm giving your way and give yourself a break.